Hey there, you're looking hidden heels. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. Chris made his way down the crowded sidewalk. His mind was occupied with thoughts of work and errands when a sudden commotion ahead caught his attention. A woman had stumbled and fallen, her belongings scattered across the pavement. Without hesitation, Chris rushed forward to help. "Are you all right?" he asked, extending his hand to the woman. She looked up, her long brown hair falling away from her face, revealing striking green eyes that seemed oddly familiar. "I'm okay, just a little embarrassed," she said with a sheepish smile, accepting his help. As Chris assisted her to her feet, a strange sense of déjà vu washed over him. There was something about her that tugged at his memory, but he couldn't quite place it. "Thank you so much," she said, brushing off her navy blue coat. "I should really watch where I'm going." "No problem at all," Chris replied, bending down to help gather her scattered items. "I'm just glad you're not hurt." As he handed her the last of her belongings, their eyes met again, and this time recognition flickered across her face. "Wait a minute," she said, her voice filled with surprise.
Chris.
"Chris Henderson." Chris furrowed his brow, trying to place her.
"I'm sorry."
"Do we know each other?" The woman's face broke into a wide grin. "It's me, Dustin." "Well, Maya now. I can't believe it's you." The revelation hit Chris like a thunderbolt. Dustin had been his best friend throughout childhood, inseparable until Dustin's family had suddenly moved away without warning when they were 15. The person standing before him now was undoubtedly different, but those green eyes were unmistakable. "Dustin," Chris stammered, his mind reeling.
"I mean, Maya, wow."
I don't know what to say. It's been so long." Maya laughed, the sound achingly familiar.
"I know.
It's a lot to take in. I've changed quite a bit since we last saw each other." Chris nodded, still trying to process the situation. "Yeah, you could say that. I'm sorry. I'm just in shock. How have you been? What happened? And you just disappeared one day." Maya's smile faltered slightly. "It's a long story. Do you have some time? Maybe we could grab a coffee and catch up." "Absolutely," Chris replied.
His curiosity piqued.
"There's a nice cafe just around the corner." As they walked, Chris couldn't help but steal glances at Maya, marveling at the changes in his old friend. She carried herself with a confidence that Dustin had never possessed, her movements graceful and assured. The cafe was warm and inviting, a welcome respite from the chilly autumn air outside. They found a quiet corner and settled in with their drinks. So Chris began, unsure where to start. "Maya, that's a beautiful name." "Thank you," she replied, her hands wrapped around her mug. "I chose it myself. It felt right." Chris nodded, trying to find the right words. "I'm happy for you, but I have to ask what happened. One day you were there, and the next gone. No goodbye, no explanation. I tried calling, but your number was disconnected." Maya's expression turned solemn. "I'm so sorry about that, Chris. It wasn't my choice. My parents, they found out some things about me that they couldn't accept. They decided to move us away immediately, thinking a fresh start would fix me." She made air quotes with her fingers, a hint of bitterness in her voice. "That must have been awful," Chris said, feeling a pang of sympathy for his old friend. Maya nodded. "It was, but in a way it was also the push I needed to be true to myself. Once I was away from everything familiar, I had the space to really figure out who I was." Chris leaned forward, genuinely interested. "And who is that?" "Who is Maya?" A warm smile spread across her face. "Maya is who I always was inside. She's strong, confident, and finally at peace with herself. It took a lot of work to get here, but I wouldn't change it for anything." As they continued to talk, Chris found himself amazed at the person his old friend had become. Ma spoke about her journey with a quiet strength that was inspiring. She told him about the struggles she'd faced, the support she'd found, and the life she'd built for herself. "I'm an architect now," she said proudly, "designing spaces where people can feel safe and at home." "That's incredible," Chris replied, genuinely impressed. "I always knew you had a talent for drawing." Maya laughed. "Remember those elaborate tree houses we used to design? I guess some dreams do come true. As the afternoon wore on, Chris felt the years of separation melting away. Despite all the changes, there was still so much of his old friend in Maya. The quick wit, the infectious laugh, the passion for life. "What about you, Chris?" Maya asked, turning the conversation to him. "What have you been up to all these years?" Chris shrugged, suddenly feeling as though his life palled in comparison. "Oh, the usual. Went to college, got a job in marketing. Nothing as exciting as your story." Maya reached across the table, placing her hand on his. "Hey, don't sell yourself short. Your life is just as valid and important. Tell me everything." Encouraged by her warmth, Chris opened up about his own journey. He talked about his struggles to find his place in the world, his failed relationships, and his recent promotion at work. Maya listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering insights that only an old friend could provide. As the sun began to set outside the cafe window, Chris realized they had been talking for hours. "I can't believe how quickly the time has flown," he said, checking his watch. Maya nodded, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I know. It's been wonderful catching up with you, Chris. I've missed this." "Missed you." "Me too," Chris replied, surprised by the depth of emotion in his voice. "I never realized how much until now." They lingered over their cold coffee, neither wanting the reunion to end. Finally, Mia glanced at her phone and sighed. "I hate to say it, but I should probably get going. I have an early meeting tomorrow." Chris nodded, feeling a familiar sense of loss. "Of course, I understand." As they gathered their things and stepped out into the cool evening air, an awkward silence fell between them. It was Maya who broke it. "Chris," she said, her voice soft. "I know this has probably been a lot to take in. I want you to know that I understand if you need time to process everything, but I hope we can be friends again." Chris looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not just the changes, but the essence of the person he had cared for so deeply in his youth. "Maya," he said, his voice firm, "you were my best friend then, and if you'll have me, I'd be honored to be your friend now." The smile that lit up Maya's face was radiant. Without warning, she threw her arms around Chris, hugging him tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. As they parted, Chris felt a sense of excitement he hadn't experienced in years. "So, what do you say? Same time next week?" Maya grinned. "It's a date." As Chris watched Maya walk away, he marveled at the strange twists and turns of life. He had started the day going through the motions, and now he felt as though a missing piece of himself had been restored. In the weeks that followed, Chris and Maya fell into a comfortable routine of regular meetups. They explored the city together, revisiting old haunts and discovering new favorites. With each passing day, Chris found himself more and more in awe of the person Maya had become. One sunny afternoon, they decided to have a picnic in the park where they had spent so much time as kids. As they spread out their blanket under a sprawling oak tree, Chris couldn't help but laugh. "What's so funny?" Maya asked, raising an eyebrow. "I was just thinking about the time we tried to build a fort up in this very tree," Chris explained. "Do you remember? We were convinced we were going to live up there forever." Maya's eyes lit up with the memory.
Oh, God.
"Yes, and then you fell and sprained your ankle.
Your mom was so mad at me."
"Hey, it wasn't your fault, I was clumsy," Chris protested good-naturedly. As they continued to reminisce, Chris found himself studying Maya's face. The way the sunlight filtered through the leaves, dappling her skin with patterns of light and shadow, was mesmerizing. He realized with a start that he was developing feelings for her that went beyond friendship. The thought both thrilled and terrified him. Was it okay to feel this way? Would it complicate their newly rekindled friendship? He pushed the thoughts aside, determined to simply enjoy the moment. As the weeks turned into months, Chris and Maya's friendship deepened. They shared their hopes, fears, and dreams with each other. Chris found himself opening up about things he had never told anyone else. And Maya did the same. One chilly evening, as they walked along the river after dinner, Ma suddenly stopped and turned to Chris. "Can I tell you something?" she asked, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "Of course," Chris replied, concerned by her serious tone. "You can tell me anything." Maya took a deep breath. I've been thinking a lot about us lately, about our friendship and how it's changing. Chris felt his heart rate quicken. What do you mean? I mean, Ma said, her eyes meeting his, that I think I'm falling in love with you, Chris, and it scares me because I don't want to ruin what we have, but I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. For a moment, Chris was speechless. Then, without thinking, he leaned in and kissed her. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. I'm in love with you, too, Chris said, his voice barely above a whisper. I have been for a while now. Maya's smile was radiant. Really? You're okay with everything? Chris took her hands in his. Maya, I love you for who you are. All of you. Your past, your present, and whatever the future holds. You're the most amazing person I've ever known. Tears glistened in Maya's eyes as she pulled Chris into a tight embrace. I never thought I'd find this, she murmured against his chest. Someone who knows all of me and loves me anyway. Always, Chris promised, holding her close. As they stood there by the river, the city lights twinkling around them, Chris marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. From childhood friends to strangers to lovers, their path had been far from straightforward, but standing there with Maya in his arms, Chris knew that every twist and turn had been worth it. In the months that followed, Chris and Maya's relationship blossomed. They navigated the challenges that came with any new romance, but also faced unique obstacles related to Maya's identity. Chris found himself learning and growing in ways he never expected, becoming an ally and advocate not just for Maya, but for the entire transgender community. There were difficult moments, of course. The first time they ran into someone from their past who knew Maya as Dustin, Chris watched with a mixture of pride and protectiveness. As Maya handled the situation with grace and dignity, he stood by her side, offering support and love, and knew in that moment that he would do so for the rest of his life if she'd let him. As their one-year anniversary approached, Chris began to plan something special. He wanted to show Mia just how much she meant to him, how proud he was of her journey, and how excited he was for their future together. On the night of their anniversary, Chris took Maya to the rooftop garden of the building where she had designed her first major project as an architect. As they stepped out onto the terrace, Mia gasped. The entire space was lit with twinkling fairy lights, and in the center stood a small table set for two. Chris, Maya breathed, taking in the scene. This is beautiful. Chris smiled, leading her to the table. I wanted tonight to be perfect, he said, pulling out her chair. As they enjoyed their meal, Chris couldn't take his eyes off Maya. She was radiant in a deep green dress that matched her eyes, her hair cascading over her shoulders in soft waves. I have something for you, Chris said as they finished dessert. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Maya's eyes widened.
Chris.
He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a pendant in the shape of a butterfly. I chose this because it reminded me of you, Chris explained. The butterfly is a symbol of transformation, of becoming who you were always meant to be. You've shown me what true courage and authenticity look like, Maya. You've transformed not just yourself, but my whole world. Tears welled up in Maya's eyes as Chris fastened the necklace around her neck. It's perfect, she whispered, touching the pendant gently. I love you so much. I love you, too, Chris replied, taking her hands in his. Maya, this past year has been the best of my life. You've shown me what it means to love fully and without reservation. You've taught me to be brave, to stand up for what's right, and to always be true to myself. He took a deep breath, his heart pounding. I can't imagine my life without you in it. So I was wondering. He slid off his chair, getting down on one knee. Maya Elizabeth Carter, will you marry me? Maya's hands flew to her mouth, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. For a moment, she seemed unable to speak. Then, with a joyful laugh, she nodded. Yes, she said, her voice choked with emotion. Yes, of course, I'll marry you. Chris slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and pulled her into a kiss. As they embraced, the city spread out below them, a tapestry of lights and possibilities. Later that night, Maya sighed, I never thought I'd have this, a life where I could be truly myself, loved for who I am. You've given me that gift, Chris. Chris kissed the top of her head. You gave me an even greater gift, he replied. You showed me what love really means. It's not about who someone was or what they look like. It's about the essence of a person, their soul. And yours, Maya, is the most beautiful I've ever known. Maya propped herself up on an elbow, looking into Chris's eyes. Promise me something? Anything? Chris replied without hesitation. Promise me that no matter what challenges we face, we'll face them together. That we'll always be honest with each other, even when it's hard. That we'll never stop growing and learning, both as individuals and as a couple. Chris smiled, pulling her close. I promise, he said with all my heart. As they drifted off to sleep, Chris thought about the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. From childhood friends to strangers to lovers to fiancés, their path had been anything but ordinary. But then again, he thought with a smile, neither was their love. The wedding planning process was a whirlwind of activity filled with both joy and challenges. Chris and Maya were determined to create a celebration that honored both their past and their future, while also staying true to who they were as a couple. One of the first hurdles they faced was deciding how to handle Maya's family. Her parents had not been part of her life since she transitioned, and the wounds from their rejection still ran deep. After many long emotional conversations, Maya decided to reach out to them. I want to give them one last chance, she explained to Chris. Not for their sake, but for mine. I need to know I did everything I could. Chris supported her decision, holding her hand as she made the difficult phone call. To their surprise, Maya's parents agreed to meet with them. The reunion was tense and awkward at first. Mia's parents struggled to reconcile the daughter before them with the son they remembered. But as the afternoon wore on, Chris watched with pride as Maya shared her journey with patience and grace. By the end of the meeting, while not fully accepting, her parents had taken a step towards understanding. We can't promise we'll be comfortable at the wedding, her father had said. But we'd like to try if you'll have us. Maya had hugged them both, tears in her eyes. That's all I ask, she'd replied. As they left the meeting, Chris squeezed Maya's hand. You were amazing in there, he said. I'm so proud of you. Mia smiled, though her eyes were still damp. Thank you for being here with me. I couldn't have done it without you. The rest of the wedding planning went more smoothly. They decided on a small intimate ceremony in the botanical gardens where they had rekindled their friendship. Maya designed her own wedding dress, a stunning creation that perfectly blended elegance with her unique style. Chris found himself constantly in awe of his fiancée's strength and resilience. Whether she was dealing with a transphobic vendor who was promptly fired or navigating the complexities of choosing a wedding party that honored both her past and present, Mia handled every challenge with grace and determination. Finally, the big day arrived. As Chris stood at the altar waiting for Maya to appear, he felt a sense of peace and rightness wash over him. This was where he was meant to be, who he was meant to be with. When Maya appeared at the end of the aisle, a collective gasp went up from the assembled guests. She was breathtaking in her self-designed gown, a vision of beauty and confidence. But what struck Chris most was the joy radiating from her face. This was Maya in her fullest expression, embraced and celebrated by those who loved her. As she reached him, Chris took her hands in his, unable to stop the tears that welled up in his eyes. You're so beautiful, he whispered. Maya squeezed his hands. So are you, she replied, her voice full of love. The ceremony was everything they had hoped for and more. They exchanged vows they had written themselves, promising not just love and fidelity, but understanding, growth, and unwavering support. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the cheers from their friends and family were deafening. At the reception, Chris was moved to see Maya dancing with her father, a moment neither of them had been sure would happen. He watched as she twirled and laughed, finally free to be her authentic self in all aspects of her life. Later, as they swayed together during their first dance as a married couple, Chris held Maya close. How does it feel to be Mrs. Henderson? He asked softly. Mia's smile was radiant. It feels like coming home, she replied, like I finally found where I belong. Chris kissed her gently. We belong together, he said. Now and always. As the night wore on and their guests celebrated around them, Chris and Maya stole a moment alone on the garden terrace. The stars twinkled above them, mirroring the joy in their heart pods. Can you believe we're here? Maya asked, leaning her head on Chris's shoulder. Sometimes I feel like I'm dreaming. Chris wrapped his arm around her. If it's a dream, I never want to wake up, he replied. But it's real, Maya. We're real. Our love is real. Maya lifted her head, meeting his gaze. I know, she said softly. And I'm so grateful for it. For you, for everything that led us to this moment. As they stood there, the sounds of the reception drifting out to them, Chris thought about the journey that had brought them to this point. From childhood friends to strangers to lovers to spouses, their path had been filled with twists and turns, challenges and triumphs. But standing there with Maya in his arms, he knew that every step had been worth it. I love you, Maya Henderson, he said, his voice filled with emotion. With all that I am and all that I will be. Maya's eyes shimmered with tears of joy. And I love you, Chris Henderson, today, tomorrow, and always. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.